There are a few things we want to let you know before we get started. If you're new with us today, we want you to feel at home and know that this is a safe place to explore your faith and experience God. For us, church is so much more than just a weekend service, and we want you to know that there's a place perfect for you at Fountain Springs. One of the best ways you can get connected with us is to fill out the connection card in the seat back in front of you. Take that card out sometime during the service and fill out as much information as you feel comfortable sharing. And then, after service, drop that card off at our Next Steps area for a gift that's our way to say, we're glad you've joined us today. And that's it. Later this week, one of our leaders will connect with you. An incredible way to stay connected with our community, receive incredible resources and opportunities, is by downloading our app. From events and workshops to message notes, sermons, and weekend set lists, you can find all you need in one place. Download the app today on any mobile phone app store. Fountain Springs Kids is dedicated to partnering with parents to lead children to become fully devoted followers of Christ. Through age-specific lessons, activities, and small groups, your children, 6 weeks to 5th grade, learn about biblical truths and real-life application. Don't miss this great opportunity to help your children learn more about God's love. Check out FS Kids this weekend. Wherever you are in life, you have a purpose. And we hope today we can help you along that journey, experiencing and connecting with God in a real and authentic way.
Well, hey guys, welcome to Fountain Springs. Happy New Year. We're so glad you're here with us today. If you would, go ahead and stand up with us. We're going to sing a few songs together, and we're going to start the new year out right, singing songs about what God has done for us. So help us out. Put your hands together. Let's get it going. Come on.
The sun is rising. Your mercies are new. You're already chasing with relentless pursuit. You have my attention. You have my whole life. I don't wanna miss you here. So open my eyes. I'm after your heart. Treasure I find, oh, it's your light. I'm after your
mercy shut his mouth. Yeah. I once was crippled by the weight of shame, embarrassed, I couldn't even show my face. Oh Jesus, then I heard you speak. Sing it out. Your love, it comes with no condition. You give us your heart. My heart is in the blood of Jesus. I know who I am because of who you are. Calling me beyond myself. You tell me grace is taking care of it. Yes, it has. Oh Jesus, you're my victory. Declare, come on. Oh Jesus, you're my victory. Your love, it comes with no conditions. You give us your heart. My heart is in the blood of Jesus. I know who I am because of who you are. I know who I Declare this, come on. I serve a king with good intentions. God, you never turn your back on me. How could a wretch become your treasure? The love of God has changed my destiny. I serve a king with good intentions. God, you will never turn your back on me. How could a wretch become your treasure? The love of God has changed my destiny. Sing your love. Your love, it comes with no conditions. You give us your whole heart. My home is in the blood of Jesus. I know who I am because of who you are. I know who I am because of who you are. Sing it out. I know who I am. I know who I am. Your love, it comes with no conditions. You give us your whole heart. My heart is in the blood of Jesus. I know who I am because of who you are. I know who I Well, I don't know what this past year looked like for you or what this next year has entailed or what you're maybe looking forward to that God's gonna do. But I do know this, that in every season, God is faithful, and we can put our confidence in that and know that beyond the shadow of a doubt. So let's sing this together. Walking around these walls, I thought by now they'd fall, but you have never failed me yet. It's the truth. Waiting for change to come, knowing the battle's won, for you have never failed me yet. So your promise still stands. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. Never failed me yet. I know the night won't last. Your word will come to pass. My heart will sing your praise again. Sing it to him. Jesus, you're still enough. Keep me within your love. Oh, my heart will sing your praise again. Yeah. Sing it again. Your promise. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, faithfulness. You've never failed me yet, and I never will forget. You've never failed me yet, and I never will forget.
Darkness tremble, Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear, Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble, Jesus, Jesus, breathe all these bones to live, all these lungs to sing once again. I will praise Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble, Jesus, Jesus. You silence fear, Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble, Jesus, Jesus. Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus. Your name is light that the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is alive, forever lifted high. Your name cannot be overcome. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, your name is alive that the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is alive, forever lifted high. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is alive, and the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is alive, forever lifted high. us today. Go ahead and have a seat.
I love that. I love declaring the reality that Jesus' name just destroys fear, and that the lightness of his presence shines just through the darkness so that we can see. And maybe for you, the idea of that, the uncertainty of darkness and of what this year is going to bring has just got you just kind of like rattled a little bit. And listen, I'm here to tell you, we're still celebrating because we believe that God is doing some awesome things. And we're celebrating the reality that at Christmas Eve services, we saw 418 people make a decision of some kind to say, I believe that I am enough in Jesus. And that is awesome. Because listen, I believe that so many times we believe the lie that we're not good enough and that Jesus wouldn't love someone like us. But yet if we come down to the reality of what he says in his word and we believe it, that we can understand that we are enough in him and him alone. And that is enough, I believe, to propel us into a realization that there's something more to life. And that involves taking a next step. And you may be like, I don't know what that next step is. Listen, maybe it means beginning to serve. Maybe it begins being baptized and proclaiming to other people that God's at work in your life. Maybe it's giving. Maybe it's taking God to work. Maybe it's allowing him to transform what's going on in your family. And I understand it. Trust me, it's daunting thinking about that idea. But God is with us. So that when we make a decision and a choice to say, I want to live for Jesus, man, he's going there with us the whole time. And so I'm excited about what that means for those individuals that wrote their name on that board. And maybe you've made that decision since then as well. But what I want to do is just take some time to pray for that next step. And just say, God, continue to show us who you are. Continue to help us make great choices. Continue to help us step into following you in a real and new way in this new year. So would you join me in prayer? God, I love you. I thank you so much for today. I thank you so much for the chance to declare in singing those words that you are greater than our fears, that you are brighter than any darkness, that God, you are at work. And I ask and pray that you would just continue to draw us to you, that you would continue to help us to be bold in this new year, to take steps, to realize that we are enough because you were enough. And God, I'm excited about what that means for those people that are pressing into that and coming to the realization of maybe some amazing things that you want to do to make 2019 just an amazing year. Help us to be bold, whether in serving or diving into being baptized or really taking you with us wherever we go, to show anyone and everyone who you are. And that starts with here, that starts with our families, it starts with those people that we hang out with. And God, I'm excited. Be with us now as we dive into what Pastor David's going to share, that you would just help keep us open to whatever it is that's going to challenge us today and grow us to make us more like you. God, we love you and ask all this in your amazing name. Amen.
If you've made the decision to follow Christ, baptism is one of the most meaningful next steps you can take. The whole church celebrates with you as you make a public declaration of your faith in Jesus, to learn and grow in your relationship with him as the church does the same. Celebrate with all of us at Fountain Springs during the next baptism weekend. If you have any questions or want to sign up, you can go online or feel free to talk with one of our volunteers in the Next Steps area who are here to help.
Hey Fountain Springs, I wanted to take a moment to celebrate with you how our generosity has affected the kids ministry over the past year. Every weekend we have close to 500 kids who come to hear about Jesus. And every opportunity that we have to partner with the parent and connect with the child is important, because we know the best way to shape a child's character and faith is through small, consistent deposits over time. And those deposits add up to provide incredible momentum in a kid's life. In fact, in the last year, we have seen 35 kids make decisions to follow Jesus, and 37 kids publicly declare that decision through baptism. Your generosity paves the way for those moments to happen, but we're not done yet. There are still over 17,000 youth in the Black Hills who don't know who Jesus is, and we believe that God wants us to do something about it. There are 2 steps that you can take today. The first is to sign up to be part of our kids' team. The best chance a child may have to see God personally is to see God through you. Whether smiling and giving high fives on our check-in team is your thing, or learning about Bible stories alongside our preschoolers seems more your style, we know that God can use the gifts and passions he placed in you to make an impact. The second way to get involved is to give financially. Through your generosity, you can make an impact in what God is doing through our experiences on the weekend and beyond. There are 3 ways to give. You can give online, you can text to give, or you can place cash or check in any of the blue boxes located in the lobby. We hope you'll take one of these steps and join us in our mission to show kids and their families who Jesus is.
David, our lead pastor, will be up shortly to share today's message. So if you've checked your child into our kids' ministry, be sure to have your phone on vibrate just in case they need to get a hold of you. Also, if you have a child with you and they're getting a bit restless, we have a room just off the lobby where they can roam around freely and you can still share in the experience with us. Thank you to all of you who serve weekly, give generously, and pray consistently. God truly is using you to make an impact as we all go through life together, showing the Black Hills who Jesus is.
All right, here, I need your participation. Who in here is sad that 2018 is over? Just raise your hand. That's what I figured. Who in here is excited for a new year? Okay. So we need to have a bit of a therapy session based on your hand, so it's your fault. Because 2018, I know for many was not awesome all the time. Probably for all of us, there's moments that are ups and downs. Typically, when you look back at a year, you're like, roller coaster, another roller coaster. So it's important, though, because in 2018, good things happened. God did things. And I want us, before we go into what I want to really, really talk about, this sermon, by the way, has 2 parts. Do not worry, that does not mean it's twice as long. But there's 2 parts to it. But before we can get to the second part, we've got to do the first part. And the first part has everything to do with 2018. So let's begin our therapy session. To go after what can happen, we must acknowledge what did happen. I know this is why you're like, that's why I want to get away from it. Most likely you had some ups and downs in 2018. I can tell you what a normal process that we have, it's not healthy, is we take pictures of the good things, we try to forget the bad things, and we just keep moving. We keep moving, we go. And I think there's a problem in that. Because if you try to throw out everything, you know you're throwing out a lot of incredible things. Most of us, none of us, I think, are good enough to say, I'm going to pick all the good things, leave out all the bad. No, we got to pay attention. If you actually want the best 2019 possible, we got to pay attention to what did happen, at least acknowledge it, at least for a few minutes. God gives us this wisdom. Let me show it to you. Remember the things I have done in the past. What I find fascinating is we read this differently. You need to know that you read it one way or you heard it one way, and the person next to you may have heard it entirely different. Remember the things I have done in the past. Immediately, some of you go, oh, all the good things. The person next to you is like, oh, all the bad things. Yeah. You see how we read this? Well, it's all inclusive. Remember the good things and the bad things I have done in the past. For I alone am God. I am God, and there is none like me. Here's what I think this gets at. If you and I forget what God has done, if you and I don't remember it, I think we start to act like God. I think you and I start to treat each day like we're the ultimate authority. We're the ones who are in full control, have all the power, and it's all up to us. And that, if you've ever done a year like that, doesn't play out well. And so I think before I get to what I really want to get to, we must pay attention that God did things in 2018. He did. And you may not have liked it. You may have loved it. You may have had both. We've got to make sure that we remember what God's done. So, again, therapy, this continued therapy. when we don't intentionally try to remember, we accidentally forget. Now, some of you have been blaming age, but that's not actually fully true. What I'll tell you is, no matter what age you're at, if you don't figure out a way to lock in the good moments, you will accidentally forget most of the good moments. It's why when you get older and you have a bit of the reminiscing moments, you look at what you intentionally remembered. A trophy, something your parents may have kept, and you're like, oh, those are good. The pictures. What I'm telling you is if you are not intentional about locking down a moment, maybe you just write it in a journal, or you take a picture, or you have a conversation. If you don't intentionally remember, I think you're going to forget it. If you're like me at all, you're going to be like, yeah, that was awesome. And about 2 weeks later, you forget some of the details. A month later, you're like, I'm sure something good happened in that 1 month. A year later, you're like, I think it was a horrible year. Move on, right? But good things happen. Good things happened, and I want to talk about them just briefly. In 2018, I'm going to talk about as a church. We had an anchor word, what we call an anchor word, a word that helped direct us and also keep us in the good places. Every year we have an anchor word. Here's last year's anchor word, awe. An overwhelming feeling of reverence, admiration, and fear. A good, healthy fear. If you're like, fear? Oh, yeah. No, a good, healthy fear. Here's what I know about you and I, all of us. We admired and had reverence for multiple things in 2018. Some of you, you found the love of your life. And you're like, oh, they were so wonderful. Some of you had this and you're in middle school, and I don't mean to break your heart. Keep your head up. An overwhelming feeling of reverence, admiration, and fear. In 2018, we all did this. Here's what we try to do as a church, is it's okay to admire other people, but let's make sure that we always admire God. That we always have this awe of God. In fact, if you've ever had a problem, a spiritual problem, it has a tendency to mean that you aren't in awe of God, and you've got to get back into admiring God. And let me help you do that if you struggle with it. As a church, 2018, we had 3 locations. 3. One church, 3 locations. Some of you are like, that sounds like McDonald's. And yes, you're exactly right. We just don't have Big Macs and quarter pounders and chicken nuggets. And sorry, I'm getting distracted. No, we're one church with multiple locations. If you're like, how does that work? Well, the same sermon, because of technology, is able to go to multiple places at the same time. So you need to know that even today, 3 locations meeting, having the same focus, same mission. If you're new, you're like, so where are these 3 locations, right? One of them is at a local prison here in Rapid City. The Bible is very clear, that we're not to forget. We're not to neglect the people who are in prison. And so we started, actually, it was the first time we started becoming more than one location. We put a location at a local prison. I was there for Christmas. What's going on there is incredible. In fact, I will tell you this. If you can remember middle school and high school, you remember that there were influencers in your school? People who, if they just said it, people did it, even though it might be dumb. Prison's the same way. If you have influencers who will invite people to church, they'll go to church. And right now, God has gotten a hold of multiple people's hearts, and they're inviting people to church in prison, and God is doing things. There's another location, the east location. Guess what? It's on the east side of Rapid City. We spent a lot of time on that one. East location, if you're like, where's that? That's across from the fairgrounds, if you're familiar with the fairgrounds. It's our newest location. It's incredible. We have a west location. It's on the west side of Rapid City. Again, you're seeing the creativity just ooze over all these names. Let me tell you something. At all 3 locations in 2018, all 3 of them, people who had never been to church came to church. At all 3 locations, people who did not follow Jesus, maybe some who did not even like him or know about him, all 3 locations experienced moments where people who did not follow Jesus decided to follow Jesus. All 3. Now you need to know, like, is it worth us having one church, multiple locations? It appears to be worth it. So let me get more into the details, because here's what we did at all 3 locations. We gathered. It's obvious. It's what churches have been doing, well, for a long time. We gather. Some of you are at church on Sunday because you're like, that's what we do. It's Sunday. We go to church. Some of you were tricked, and you thought you were going to lunch, and it was an early lunch, but now you're here. And you're like, what's going on? But we gathered. We gathered all over the place, all in different ways. I want to show you some of the ways we gathered. Normally, we gather here on the weekends, and it's very frequent, but not every weekend it was normal. Easter, not a normal weekend. As you can tell, the kids had more fun than we did as the adults. If there's things to jump on and climb, come on. They never let me do that. So anyways, we gathered at Easter at the Civic Center. Over 7,000 people gathered. Hundreds of people decided to follow Jesus, and it was an incredible gathering. And it was awesome. It's not all that we do, but many of us, that was your first step into Fountain Springs. Maybe more recently was Christmas. Christmas was incredible. Now, obviously, I was at Easter, and I was at Christmas. I got to tell you, something was uniquely special about Christmas this year. God did things that have not been happening at the rate that he did it. You need to know this, and I don't know if you know this. More people decided to follow Jesus at Christmas than at Easter. What God did in those services, and many of you know this because it was your life, God grabbed a hold of us in ways that we had never actually understood him, where we actually walked out realizing more about grace and how much God values us. It was incredible. Those are some of the bigger gatherings and stuff. Gosh, let me show you one of the weird ones. It's called the internet. You can go to church online. Now, I know some of you are like, oh, I know, David. And that's why the world is going down the pits. I mean, I know you. We're not going to avoid the reality that some of you are like, yeah, this online church thing is so wrong and bad, and I don't know why I'm talking this way. I don't know what your view is of online church, so I thought I would use this moment to clarify something. It is not the best option. Some of us are like, no, it's not the best option. It's not the ideal option. You and I need each other. Come on, you and I need to be with each other and encourage each other. You and I need to not live in a sense of loneliness and isolation. And you and I need, online church is not the best option, but it needs to be an option. Does that make sense to you? It's got to be. In fact, this is a real map. This is not like just stock photos. For those of you who skipped geography class and you're like, yeah, I didn't get that. These are countries. This is the world. These each represent a country that tunes in. People, someone or people or groups or multiple, these just represent the countries across the globe that are hearing about who Jesus is. So if you're wondering, is it worth it? I think it's worth it. Now, you notice, by the way, this is where we are, the United States of America. Just trying to help for those catch up. 44 of the 50 states. 44 of the 50 states are tuning in. I'm going to find those 6 states. I have an idea of which ones they are, but we're not going to talk about that right now. But 44 of the 50 are tuning in. Online church is not the best option. In fact, here's what I would say. If currently it is the only option you are utilizing, yet you have access to a real live location, you ought to go to the real live location. I'm going to tell you this, and I'm not trying to be mean. Some of us are simply being lazy. Some of us are trying to keep, let's just say, our feet on both sides of the fence. I'm not trying to offend you. I'm just telling you the truth. Some of us are trying to be all for God and all for other things, and you can't do both at the same time. And I'm telling you, if that's you, you need to stop and you need to plug into an actual location with real people. However, if you're over here, not happening, right? So some of these represent deployed people. It's a beautiful thing that someone who's deployed can watch the same service that their spouse watches, and when they get to talk to each other, it's like they had an experience together. It's incredible. This is good. This is healthy. But every good tool can be misused. So that's your warning. Do not misuse this. Do not use it as an excuse. You and I need people. Which brings me to the next way we gathered. Groups. Groups gather all over the place. The best ones gather when there's coffee. I'm just going to tell you that. That's how that works. And if you're wondering, like a smaller group of people who can actually have conversations. There's groups that listen to the sermons, and then they go and they even take it even further. And they talk more about it. There's groups who talk about all the different categories of life. We just studied the Bible. There's tons of groups. They meet all over the place, and they're growing their relationship with God. They're encouraging each other. You and I need encouragement. You and I need to get better. And you and I need people. We gathered all over the place. But we didn't just gather and sit in seats and say, that's neat, we gathered. No, we invested. You don't want to just be a part of a church, and just listen very closely. You don't want to just be a part of a church who just finds it cool to gather. We're not a church that is just all caught up in how many people were at our gathering. That's not the most important thing. I mean, come on, you and I can gather a lot of people if we just pay them to come. It's easy to gather a bunch of people. That's not the ultimate goal. We want to invest. When we gather, we should be investing. Let me break this up according to almost age brackets. Kids. We averaged 445 kids every weekend at our church. Now it's over 500. Now, I know some of us, again, I'm warning you with these numbers. We're not all about numbers, but I want you to see this. Some of us think this is, well, that's neat, right? Right? Do you know how I see it? That's now a responsibility. That's now something that's in your life and my life that we cannot just say, that's really cool. It's, what am I doing about that? Because if you think that's normal, it's not. The fourth generation pastor can tell you, not normal. This is more than a cool thing. It's a responsibility. So, to the 129, I'm going to use some privilege here. If you serve in the kids ministry, I'm not about to make you stand up because you hate it when I have you do that. I just want to tell you, on behalf of Katie, my wife, and I, we are so grateful that you guys would invest in our kids. Now, if you wonder if you should put your kids in the kids ministry, I'm telling you as a person who studies Greek and Hebrew and the languages the Bible was written, someone who's been to seminary and studied the multiple books of the Bible, someone who is entrenched in knowing who God is so I can teach who God is, I need you. I need it. And if I need it, you need it. So I encourage you to put your kids there fast because we need other people investing in our kids. Now, they grow up, unfortunately. Maybe that's good. They grow up and they become students, teenagers. Right now, we have almost 200 teenagers who could be doing a lot of other things. Gathering during the week to hear more about who Jesus is, to spend time with friends. Several of them deciding to even follow Jesus for the first time. Here's what I believe about this current generation. I think they have the potential to be the greatest generation ever. I think if the right influencers are in their life, that we don't have to look at the bad parts of their generation. We can look at the good parts and foster that. And what you and I do not like about our current world can become different. So we as a church have decided it's not just the small kids. It's the teenagers we need to pay attention to and invest in. Love Week's another way we invested. If you're not familiar with Love Week, maybe you've heard about it. It's when a bunch of people in colored shirts just are all over the place. It's more than that, though. I grew up, and maybe you've heard of churches doing missions trips, churches who will send people out to go to different countries, maybe groups of 10 people, 15 people, and they'll go out to just all over the world, and they'll do good work. They should do good work. That's necessary. Churches should do missions trips. But, missions trips are expensive. Rarely is a missions trip less than $1,000 because you got to go somewhere and there's got to be food involved and then you got the cost of whatever you're going to do, what a project you're going to do. So we decided as a church, hey, should we not go to other countries but also go to our own city? Yeah. For decades, churches have only been focused on what's inside the walls. Just so you know, whether this is your church home or not, never be a part of a church that only cares about who's there. So we decided, let's do a missions trip to our city. What's cool if you do that, you can involve more people. You just flat out can. Because people are like, I got to sleep in my own bed and go do a missions trip? Sign me up. And when you have that many people, look how many hours in 1 week you can invest in a community. That's 1 week. Some of us are like, yeah, that's only 1 week. I'm glad you brought that up. Because there's also Saturday Serve that happens all year long. Every second Saturday, we go and do projects like Love Week all throughout the area. If you're in construction, we need you. If you're not, we need you too. Just don't do construction if you don't do construction. Clear on that? We do things all over the place, work with organizations, help even provide finances for organizations. We're investing. A church should not just have an address in a city, it should influence and invest in a city. And so we've decided to do that. We've been doing that. There's another thing we did in 2018 that was new and weird for some. It goes back to the internet, called Right Now Media. Most of us, if you don't know this, I can just tell us about you. I'll tell you a secret. Most of us don't feel like we know the Bible in the ways that we should know the Bible. So what the church did, what we did is we bought into an incredible system where you can, like you access a movie on Netflix, you can access incredible teachings and group studies on God. There's even a section for kids shows. My kids love it. If you've ever, like, how do I get better? How do I honor God in my marriage? How do I honor God with my finances? How do I honor God as a parent? How do I honor God as a boss or employee? It's all there, and you don't have to pay a dime for it. You just go to the website, get the access, and you, your family, your friends can have it. It's a great way to invest, and 747 active users right now. We just started it. You appear to like it, so keep using it. Now, we gathered, we invested, and we messed up. So I need to some of you are brand new, and if you're expecting us to be perfect, you're going to need to find another church. Here's just going to, beginning of the year, this year I will probably say something I should not have said, just so you know. My wife will correct me when we have lunch later. She'll say, you should not have said that. And be like, you are so right. There will be times as we as a church go one way and we're like, oh, we think this is where, we will mess up. If you anticipate me and us as a church doing everything perfect this year, I'm just apologizing right now. When we do it, reference this sermon, like, oh, you already apologized. Okay? We will mess up. You will mess up. And unfortunately, they didn't teach me this in seminary, is that our mess-ups are often caught on video. So just to prove a point to you, in our attempt to be good and really polished, we aren't. There's always a video camera running. So for your enjoyment, take a look at this. We can learn from other folks. We can actually learn how to lead our kids, how to raise them up, what to teach them, and how to encourage them. It's all a massive library, accessible.
Let's pray. Dear God, we thank you. We love you. Amen.
Okay. I'm Chris. Boom. I'm Chris. Amen. Well, hey, we've had a great time of singing. Now we're going to go out and check a message from David. That's too much pauses. I don't like that either. See, I hate coming out of that prayer going right into that, but that's all right. Let's do it.
Flawed. It's a funny word when you just say it by itself. Flawed. Sorry. Flawed.
Well, hey guys, welcome to Fountain Springs. If you would, stand with us as we sing a few songs together.
Much information as you feel comfortable sharing. And then, Merry Christmas, everyone. Service is just about to start. There are a few things we want to let you know before we...
Yeah.
The ladies, man.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, that's nice.
Flawed. Let's move on. I'll come back to flawed.
What's cool is this. I heard that and I was just like, what's that? What's that noise?
Flawed. Flawed. It just sounds so stupid. It sounds so stupid. Flawed.
See, now you're like, yeah, that is a weird word. Here's what I'll tell you. We're going to mess up, and you're going to mess up. And I can tell you, if we as a church mess up, we will apologize for it. We will own it, and we'll move on, okay? And I hope you'll do the same. But I want to show you something, because we messed up, you messed up, and God is still God. This is something very important to us as a church. In 2018, we have names of 1,038 people who decided to follow Jesus. Yeah. Yeah. See, I know something else about you. Oftentimes we wonder that in our imperfections and in our can God use me? Oh, yeah, He can. You do not have to be a perfect individual, an all-knowing individual for God to use. We are a group of people who believe that God is amazing and He can use any one of us. So that's why I think in 2018, the word awe is great. It's easy to be in awe of God, what He did. I know it was not a perfect year for you. It was not for me as well. But God still did things. So let's turn the page. 2019. Our anchor word is abide. The word abide. I've been studying this and paying a lot of attention to this. I really feel like God has directed us to spend the year, just like we did with awe, with abide, just dwelling on it as an anchor. Let me show you a definition that I like. Here it is: continue without fading. I think we live in a culture now that likes to commit and then commit and then commit, and we pull back the fader. We turn the volume down. What a great time. Resolution time. Some of you hate resolutions. You're like, oh, I hate those. See, many of us committed to something in 2018, but we faded. Maybe you haven't even quit yet. Maybe you haven't quit. You're like, I'm still going to try. I'm still going to maybe. But you faded back. You turned it down. I think we ought to pay attention this year. How do we continue without fading? How do we make sure that we lock on and we don't become a statistic? A group of people who say, that used to be, and we pull it back. Continue without fading. Can I just tell you, this is how relationships fail. It's not typically one moment. It's someone or both pulled back the fader, turned it down, lowered the intensity. This is how a lot of times we start to hate a job, because we fade back and we quit. So let me teach you a little bit about this. If you don't want to quit, pay attention to the fade. Don't be so consumed with, am I going to quit? Am I going to quit? No, pay attention to how you're fading each day. Each day is a day. The Bible says, pay attention to the day. Don't worry about tomorrow. Pay attention to the day. And each day, if we pay attention to not fading, I think we could end up at the year going, hey, this was a better year. And Jesus taught all about how to do this. Here. I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, He takes away. And every branch that bears fruit, He prunes it so that it may bear more fruit. Let me use an example. Just so you know, for those of you who are hippies, no tree was injured in the gathering of this branch. Jesus just brought up branches. You catch that? He brought up branches. I know He used vines, but I don't want to. I want to use this. But He talked about branches, and here's what He said. If you miss, you and I are the branch. You and I are the branch. This is how life functions. You and I are the branch. What He's saying is, if you and I, we got to pay attention to what we're connected to. He's saying that if you want this, the green stuff, the fruit, whatever branch, you just pick whatever branch you want. If you want this, the way to do it is not to focus on this. You understand that? You don't focus on this. You focus on what is the branch attached to. So let me ask you a question. What are you attached to? Maybe you have to reflect and think more about 2018 because it's too early in the year. But you're like, I just want you to consider, who are you attached to? What are you attached to? Some of you, my phone. Some of you right now just need to get your phone out, and this is how it would look. But if we go a little bit even deeper, let's talk about the people. Let's talk about the things in your life that you were trying to get fuel from to grow, that you were connected to, attached to. Some of you, if you're real honest, you didn't detach on your own. A storm broke you off. And if you don't want a storm to break you off, we need to quit blaming the storms and pay attention to how strong of a branch are we going to be. You are this. I am this. And what we attach to determines what grows in our life. Okay, you understand that? That's what Jesus just taught. That's what Jesus said. So what do you attach to? If you're like, well, what's the right answer? Well, let's see what Jesus has to say. Abide in me. Thank you for coming today. It was good to have you. He's saying if you want fruit, if you want grain, continue in me without fading. Attach to me without fading. Abide in me and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, which some of us tried, unless it abides in the vine. So neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him, he bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. Some of you are like, oh, but I did some things. Well, according to God, not the things that you should have done. Let me teach you about growing things. I'm an expert, by the way. I'm being sarcastic. Let's say that because our word is abide, and I'm using this as an illustration, a story right now, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to set this on the stage right now, and we're going to watch this grow all year long. You'd be like, you're an idiot. Right? I mean, I could even be like, all right, I know what to do. I mean, if I want to be in a certain mood, I have certain playlists. Maybe you have the same thing. If I need to go work out, certain playlist. If it's a cloudy, rainy day, certain playlist. There's just right playlists. What if I got the most inspirational playlist and just played it all day long in here for this guy? Maybe he'd grow. No, he wouldn't. Or I can go to YouTube. There's even YouTube videos that will inspire you. And I could show the branch, all the YouTube videos. Be like, grow. And you would know, it's obvious, it wouldn't. I could go rob a bank, but I wouldn't. But let's just say I could rob a bank and give $1 million and set $1 million on the stage with the branch and be like, hey, there's $1 million. All the money you ever wanted, grow. And I think you're getting the point. You're like, that's dumb. The thing's not going to grow, David. Yeah. So my question is why do you think that's kind of dumb and elementary when it applies to you and I too? Why does this apply to a branch? Yeah, you got to plant that or get some water and all this different stuff. And you and I know this, but why have we separated it from, no, that's true for trees and branches, but for me, I can just detach and do anything I want and grow. No, you can't. Jesus taught us this, and if you live life long enough, you understand. You can't grow. If you want the green stuff and the fruit, pay attention to what you're attached to, and that's exactly what Jesus is teaching. Stop looking at this and be like, grow. Here's why he taught this. Just as the Father has loved me, I've also loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. Watch this, though. These things I have spoken to you so that. Now, sometimes we don't even read the rest of this verse. We just make up our own stuff. Oh, so that I'll be religious. That's what he wants me to do, is be religious. Or so that I can feel trapped as a Christian. That's why I don't want to be a Christian, because it's so boring. No. So that, here's why we abide in him. So that my joy may be in you. And that your joy may be made full. Jesus is saying, pay attention to who you're attached to more specifically. If you attach to me, if you abide in me, you'll have joy. And I know something about you. You want joy. I hate faking joy. You ever done that? Hey, David, how are you doing? I'm great. Don't ask me anything more. Do you ever fake joy? Most of us have. Do you ever crave joy? You wish you could actually wake up and say, you know what? Life's not perfect, but I still feel good about this. What if you and I could have legitimate joy, not fake joy, not religious joy, not legalistic joy, real joy, like really walk through the day going, life's not miserable. I'm not lonely. This is good. Well, Jesus is saying if you want that, the only way to that is to abide in him, is to be attached to him. I'll summarize it. Here we go. Never underestimate the impact of our attachments. And if you reflect on 2018 and you're already regretting some of the things that you've attached to, some of us are like, yeah. And the attachment didn't work. It didn't give you the joy that you thought it might give you. Jesus talked more about fruit in this way. You can identify them by their fruit, that is, by the way they act. Can you pick grapes from the thorn bushes or figs from thistles? By the way, if you're not an expert on this like I am, the answer is no and no. You can write that down. A good tree produces good fruit, and a bad tree produces bad fruit. Some of you thought the Bible was confusing. It is not. A good tree can't produce bad fruit, and a bad tree can't produce good fruit. Hello? Jesus is like, come on, guys. Life's not as complicated as we make it. Stop being so distracted by everything and consumed by everything and just abide in me. Stay attached to me without fading. Each day, spend time with him. So how do we do this? I would say fight the fade. If you don't want to quit on God, if you don't want to quit on the pursuit of joy, fight the fade. Stop worrying and so consumed with like, okay, I don't want to quit, I'm going to try not to quit, I'm not going to. Well, if you dwell on it, you probably will. That's how it works. Fight the fade. Each day, fight the fade. There's a couple ways to do this. Now, I am, again, not great with growing things that are fruit and we need to eat or anything like that. But what I have been learning is, I told you this over and over, I've been trying to get healthier just myself. And I've learned how to fight the fade because I don't want to quit. I don't want to have to get up here and be like, oh, so I quit working out and all that. Here's what I'm learning. Here's how you fight the fade. Pay attention to nourishment. When I started working out, I hired a trainer because I couldn't do it on my own, just fessing up to you right now. I did not have the motivation or the discipline to show up. So I hired a buddy. He's like, hey, I will pay you to show up so that I show up. That's how this works. But I need your expertise. He's an expert. And you know, one of the questions he asked me first, it was a dumb question. He's like, how much water are you drinking? I'm like, don't ask me that. He's like, no, seriously. I was like, are you talking about like how much water is in my sweet tea? Well, I mean, make a gallon at a time. And he's like, no. Like, how much clear, non-sugar water are you drinking? I'm like, it does not taste good. And I hated drinking water. He's like, if you want to get healthy, you will have to learn how to drink water. And so I was like, fine. That's how excited I was. Now, here's what I can tell you. And many of you already knew this. You were like, you should just ask me, David. Didn't have to pay for this advice. I now crave water. I drink so much water that I crave it. I feel it if I don't have enough. Sounds like something that could be applied to your spiritual life as well. See, sometimes we see people, they look so spiritual. They seem to have everything, have the faith in God that we crave. Do you understand that didn't happen overnight? They realized that they needed to spend time with God and nourish that relationship, and over time they began to crave it. If you do not currently crave time with the Lord, listen. If you do not crave it, do not abandon it. Get involved more in it. Does that make sense? If you don't crave it, participate more in it. Open up your Bible. Be part of a group if you're like, I don't know how to study the Bible. Right Now Media, available for you. If you just want to start studying on your phones, learn more. Let God nourish you. There's a second part that's not fun, and frankly, I hate it the most about fighting the faith. It's called pruning. I hate pruning. You may have missed something that I read earlier. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. We're like, yep, you better believe it, right? That's normal. But every branch that bears fruit, that does good, he prunes it. Let me get in your business right now. You ever wondered why bad things happen to good people? Sometimes it's the devil. Sometimes it's just you. Sometimes it's God. And when God causes pain in your life, when he's the one that's caused it, you need to know it's actually to your benefit in some way. I know you may not like to hear that, but oftentimes he's like, you need to grow and I need to do some pruning. My trainer, more in this conversation, pruning, you know what he told me? You will not believe this. He said I should stop eating donuts. I need to get a new trainer, don't I? He said, donuts are not good for me. And I'm like, then you're not good for me. He can hurt me, so I just stopped. I apologized immediately afterwards. And you know that, and I know that. And I've stopped eating donuts as much. When I do eat them, I tell him. There's things in your life that you probably have to prune out. If you don't want to quit this year, there are things in your life that you're probably letting be in your life that you need to not just say, I'm going to try to fix that. I'm going to try to resist that. Maybe you need to cut it out. If you're in a dating relationship that's not healthy, maybe you end the relationship. If you're ingesting things that you shouldn't be ingesting, you might have to get some help and cut that out. It's tough, isn't it, the pruning thing? But it will bear fruit someday if you do. You will grow. In fact, here's the best definition of abide that I can come up with now. Attached to Jesus without fading. If you need direction in your life, attached to Jesus without fading. If you want to know the motivation behind every single sermon that is preached this year, that. If you will spend time with us, amongst us, we will try to help with this so that you don't have to say, I quit. You can say, I didn't fade. So here's the first step. The drinking the water thing for you. Just listen, I need 7 weeks. I need 7 weeks from you. Now, if you're like, well, is that the new scientific way of creating a habit? No. I studied a bunch of content, and it's going to take 7 weeks, okay? It's going to take 7 weeks. The next 7 weeks, we're going to do something this next weekend that we've never done before, and I say that ever in the history of this church that I'm aware of. And it will launch us in to a time where if you've ever wondered what your purpose is in life and how to get there and actually how to live out what God even made sure you were born to do, then you need to be here the next 7 weeks. If you're like, but I got plans, I understand, cancel some of them. But if you can't cancel it, that's a good time then to utilize the internet and grab a hold of what we're going to talk about. Abide is our anchor this year. I hope that you will spend time with us and make that a part of your life. Let me pray for you. God, you are incredible, and I believe you've gathered us here so intentionally that I think there are many of us who know that we just heard from you, that this was not an accident, that you have given us a word that will lead us through the next months, maybe even the next decade of our own lives. God, I ask that you'll help us to abide in you. We need your help. If we are currently weak in any way, Lord, would you begin to add strength, supernatural strength? We especially dedicate the next 7 weeks to you. Teach us, change us, grow us to be the people that you always knew we could be. For your glory, God, for your glory, not ours, to accomplish your will. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Well, I'm grateful for Pastor David's words and just that challenge because, man, I need a challenge. I think maybe if you're like me, you need a challenge as well. One of those words that stands out to me is not the fading part, it's the attached part. And maybe you would say right now, I haven't been attached to Jesus. He hasn't been something that I've been wanting to cling to and wanting to be a part of. And maybe that today, that begins with a conversation with him saying, God, it's yours. My life is yours. Help me live it out. Help me understand what it looks like to love Jesus in relationship. And then committing to being here over the next 7 weeks and being a part of what's going on. Listen, there are people in maroon shirts here to serve. Next step, if you have questions, that is for you. Find one of those individuals. They love helping people. There is someone in a baptism shirt. I have decided if you want to take that next step to get baptized, speak with them. Take a next step. What's that look like? Maybe that means making the easy commitment to being here the next 7 weeks. But we look forward to walking it out with you. You guys are awesome. Have a great day. We'll talk to you then.